Love Cambridge podcast. This is podcast number 2, and we've got a great guest today. His name is Mark Silverthorn. Mark is a former resident of Cambridge, but he lives in Kitchener, so he lives in the Waterloo region. So he still qualifies. But what's interesting about Mark's profession is Mark is a lawyer, specifically a consumer lawyer that specializes in debt. Is that correct, Mark?
That's correct, Walter.
Okay, perfect. So let's start off by that, because let's talk a little bit about that, because I know a lot of times when people feel themselves in a situation where they need to refer to a professional with regards to debt issues, right away the reflex is to go to a trustee in bankruptcy. So where do you fit in this picture in terms of helping people with consumer debt?
Well, one of the things I do, and I give a free 10-minute telephone consultation, is that when people tell me what their debt problem is, I can, within about 10 minutes, I've got a pretty good idea of what their situation is and what might be the best 1 or 2 options for them. And there's a broad range of potential options that people have when they have debt problems.
I see. Okay, so when somebody's in a situation, when would they call you as opposed to a trustee? Would they call you first, or do you come in after? Where does your role lie?
Yeah, they would call me first. I mean, for example, if someone is having difficulty making the minimum monthly payments on their credit cards,
yep,
that would be a good time to call me. If someone has been sued,
yep,
by a creditor, that would be a good time to sue me. If someone
yep,
someone is getting calls from their creditors about late payments, if someone has items on their credit report that they don't think should be there,
yep,
if someone is concerned that they're going to be sued and they don't want to be, they don't want a lien put on their house, or they don't want to have their wages garnished, they may want to call me. So there's a number of, if someone's got a judgment on their house and they've got a judgment against them and there's a lien on their house. I mean, one of the ways that I can really help them is if they've got accounts that are in collections or unpaid judgments and they're going to get some mortgage refinancing. That's a wonderful opportunity for me to try and negotiate settlements with their creditors and reduce potentially thousands of dollars of debt that they would owe to their creditors.
Yep, and you and I have done that in the past with some of our clients. So that's and it's worked out really well. Now, one thing I want to touch on a couple of things here. You've got a lot of recognition. A lot of it. You've got a lot of exposure. I saw you on the CBC Marketplace. You've been on breakfast television. And you're on a series of podcasts. There's just been a recent case that you've had quite a bit of publicity with regards to somebody being chased down by I guess an illegal collection agency or something along those lines.
Yeah, I had a client who was sued by there's a debt buyer out of London called Canna Seed, and they sued my client for $43,000. And I brought a motion to dismiss that lawsuit. And the motions court judge, he not only dismissed or threw out this $43,000 lawsuit, but he also indicated that the candidacy, the debt buyer, would have to pay my client costs of just under $6,500.
Oh, wow.
Now, the judge threw out the debt buyer's claim on 2 grounds. Number one, they were operating as an illegal collection agency, and secondly, that they hadn't proved that there was a valid absolute assignment of the debt.
Oh, wow. Okay. Very, very interesting. Very interesting. So tell me now, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about is there is a statute of limitations in terms of how long somebody has to collect a debt. Is that correct?
That's correct. And basically what happens is when the statute of limitations expires, then that gives the consumer the right to raise a defense if they are sued. The debt does not magically disappear.
I see. Okay. Okay.
And in Ontario, the limitation period is 2 years. It's a little difficult to put a precise timing on it in terms of when the debt expires. The best rule of thumb is it's about 2 years and 6 months, 2 years and 9 months from the date of your last payment.
Okay.
That's a good rule of thumb if you want to have some idea as to when the limitation period has expired on your debt. Now, one of the points I'd like to make is a consumer can't take advantage of the expiry of a limitation period on all types of debt. So for example, any monies owing to the government, that's not going to help you. If you've got monies that are owing like child support or spousal support, that's not going to help a debtor. So there's not all debt is going to, the expiry of a limitation period basically is only going to help you when it comes to consumer debt.
I see. Okay. So there are a whole bunch of caveats in terms of what actual debt qualifies within the parameters of that limitation.
Correct.
I see. Okay, good. Now, you also wrote a book. I guess how long ago did you write it? The book?
It was about 9 years ago.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I wrote the book in 2010, and the book is based upon. I spent 12 years as a collection agency lawyer. I think it was from 1994 to 2006. And I worked for 4 of the largest collection agencies in Canada. And my office would sit right on the collection floor at some of these collection agencies. I'd open my door and there'd be between 50 and 100 collectors working outside my door.
Oh, wow.
So I just lived and breathed what the collection agencies did. So I really know how they operate. And that gives me a tremendous advantage if I'm representing a consumer and I'm dealing with a collector at a collection agency, because I know all their tricks.
Okay. So now the one thing, I'm sorry, my mind kind of goes all over the place. So one of the things that you talked about with regards to that case you just recently won was that the collection agency was not operating under legal pretenses. And so what makes what's the difference between a legal collection agency and an illegal collection agency?
Okay. In Ontario, we've got a law called the Ontario Collection and Debt Settlement Services Act. And under that act, if you fall within the definition of a collection agency, then you have to be registered as a collection agency. And there's 3 different sort of creatures that fall within the definition of a collection agency. One is a traditional collection agency. Mm-hmm. The second one is a debt settlement firm, firms that help negotiate settlements on behalf of consumers. And the third category are debt buyers. And a debt buyer is a firm that purchases unpaid accounts. And so in the court case that I recently successfully represented a consumer, there was a company that had purchased accounts, and they had sued in their own name, but they had not gone to the trouble of registering as a collection agency.
Oh boy. Okay. And how long were they actually in business?
Well, Canaseed Financial Group mm-hmm. Is based out of London, and according to their website, they've invested, I think, $350 million over the last 8 years, acquiring purchased debt from major financial institutions. And you have to realize that they may have only paid 1.5 or 2 or 3 cents on the dollar to get that debt. So we're talking, they're a major player.
Yeah.
And one of their affiliates is a company called Canaseed Credit LP. And that was the particular corporate entity that sued my client. And for whatever reason, they did not obtain registration as a collection agency.
Oh, wow. That seems like such a simple mistake that cost them a lot of money.
Well, and it would have probably cost them about $2,000 to get registered.
Wow. Now, have they since registered? Do you know, or?
They've appealed the decision. So.
Oh, I see. Okay. So the saga continues.
Yes.
Yeah. I see. Okay. Very good. So now you lived in Cambridge for a couple of years, and
Yes.
now you're living in Kitchener. So tell me a little bit about what you loved about Cambridge.
Well, I think probably one of my all-time favorite things in Cambridge is to go cycling on the Cambridge to Paris rail trail.
Oh yeah, no, that is beautiful.
It's gorgeous. It's a safe way to go cycling. I don't particularly enjoy cycling on the road and sharing the road with cars.
Right.
So it's very safe, and
right.
it's beautiful, and it's in sort of there's a lot of tree cover, so you don't get a lot of wind, and it's very cool in the summer.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful trail. I've walked it a few times, and actually it's so interesting to see such a beautiful trail not be like heavily used. I never see a lot of people on it, so it's almost like a real secret.
Yeah, and I think the city, and I guess it would be the city of Paris and the city of Cambridge, should do more to promote it as a tourist destination.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, for sure. Okay, so in terms of getting back to what you actually do, what would be the first step if somebody was actually in a jam and they wanted to reach out to you? Where could they find you?
Well, I've got a website. It's called silverthornlaw.ca.
Okay.
So they could do that. My phone number is 519-987-3270. They could call me, and I give a free 10-minute telephone consultation.
Yep.
So I'm happy to speak to someone for 10 minutes, and I don't charge for that.
Oh, that's great. I'm just sharing your website right now because this also goes on YouTube. So I've got your website up here now, silverthornlaw.ca. Yep. Perfect. Yeah, very good.
I've also,
yeah, go ahead.
I also have a lot of YouTube videos.
Yep.
So I've got 2 YouTube video channels. One is Mark Silverthorn with a space, and the other one is Mark Silverthorn Lawyer. So I think on those 2 YouTube channels, I've got somewhere in the neighborhood of 100, 125 YouTube videos.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so I'll be sure to share those as well. I got to tell you, Mark, when I was looking at some of the links of the YouTube videos that you sent me, I think I found one of you doing a karaoke in a
You know, if my daughters ever saw that, I think they'd disown me.
It looked like a lot of fun. I thought, now there's the guy I want to call.
Yeah. Well, there's a story to that. The costume that I was wearing it was at Halloween. It was a British soldier's uniform from the War of 1812.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So my wife, Danny, she took me down to Malabar's, which is a place in Toronto where they get costumes for movie sets.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So I went to a lot of trouble to get this uniform for that karaoke number. But I've not been offered a recording contract after that karaoke.
It didn't go anywhere. So you're not like Justin Bieber or anything.
No, I'm going to keep my day job.
Very good. Now let me ask you a question with regards to Cambridge again. Favorite restaurant?
Obie's.
Oh, that's a great place. Yeah.
Yeah. We've probably been there about a dozen times.
Yeah.
And I have to say, every time it was just excellent.
Yeah, no, the food is really good there. They're right. You're talking about the place right on the corner of Pine Bush and Franklin.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's a great place for sure. Now, let me ask you, if you had a magic wand and you could change anything about Cambridge, what would you change?
I'm not sure. I guess the downtown, the older part, I'm not sure.
Downtown Galt specifically, I guess what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Yep.
by the river.
Yep.
And I know that they're doing things to sort of improve that.
Yep.
I'm sure that over the next 5 or 10 years, it's going to be redeveloped to a certain extent, and there's going to be more amenities down there. I mean, I know we've go to the live theater down there. It used to be called
the Drayton Theater. Now it's called the Hamilton Family Theater.
Right.
Yep.
We've gone there, and it's wonderful. So there's a lot of nice things downtown. But I do think that things could be done to sort of make it a more attractive place for people to come and spend time.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, it's certainly in transition. There are some good things going on down there, especially with this new gaslight project that's going on, and so I think the wheels are definitely in motion. Let's hope it takes and it changes down there. Now, obviously a little bit of the divide of Cambridge, Galt, Preston, and Hespeler. What's your favorite spot?
Well, I think that I used to live in North Galt.
Yes. Okay.
So that's where I'm familiar with.
Okay.
I'm not too familiar with the other parts. I mean, the thing about Cambridge, it's so spread out.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah, Cambridge is, it's funny, because me being in the real estate business, you'll get people moving in from out of town and they think they're coming to Cambridge, which of course they are. But after they're here for a few months and you follow up with them and say, how do you like it? And they say, well, we love it, but we're trying to get a hand. What's Galt, Preston, and Hespeler? We don't even know,
Yeah, it's like
out of it.
You've got a city with 3 downtowns.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly, for sure. All right, very good. Again, thank you very much for your time, Mark. I greatly appreciate it.
Oh, it was my pleasure, Walter.